The essence of the virtual reality game Dantalian is that the player lies in a specially equipped capsule and is immersed in the game's dimension. But the peculiarity of this particular game is that its elements are generated randomly each time. This adds even more awe to the high level of difficulty of this game, and also the feeling of reality that could be felt through the virtual space. The entire world was delighted with this game, while the figure of 3 million users online indicated its worldwide popularity. But one day, a strange message appeared in the game, the gist of which was that the character and the user had been synchronized, and if the character died, the player would also die. The group of characters playing the game didn't understand what had happened, but then the monster's red stakes pierced several of the players. System notification screens appeared stating that the character was dead, and the player was also dead, which the characters initially couldn't believe. The system displayed another message stating that the game was over, and the capsule containing the player began to make sounds and shake. A bloody guy's face appeared in the capsule window. He was killed not only in the game, but also in the real world. One after another, the corpses of users began to appear. All the players who ignored the system warning died. In a large conference room, a man at the podium informed those present that this incident in the game had begun simultaneously all over the world. A middle-aged man dressed in a classic suit also added that everyone involved in the game also died a strange death from cardiac arrest, and experts could not offer any solution to the problem. There was only one way to end this, and that was to pass the 72nd floor in the Dantalian game. However, this level was too difficult and none of the users could pass it as if it was intended to be so. The main character's sister is stuck inside this game. The guy had no choice but to complete this game because he absolutely must save his sister. So he goes into a capsule to immerse himself in virtual reality. And so the guy finds himself in virtual reality. He changes visually. Now he looks much larger than in the real world. The system displayed a message about the completion of the settings and selection of the monk class, as well as about the authorization of the user Wayne in the Dantalian game. The guy was surprised that the start of the game looked suspiciously simple. He didn't know what was going on. Then he heard a female voice and turned towards it. A pretty girl in cute clothes with her hair tied in 2 ponytails appeared in front of him. She said that she knew the guy would choose this image. She was a manager, and her name was Chloe, and in real life she was his friend. To which Wayne simply asked about her going out on stream dressed like that. The girl became confused and asked what was wrong with her clothes. Outside the game, the girl dressed more simply and didn't tie her hair in ponytails. She asked the guy to stop his indecent fantasies. Chloe changed her form to a more simplified, even cartoonish one, and told the boy that she always streamed like this, to which the boy responded skeptically. The girl added that only Wayne can see her in the game and she herself cannot influence the game, but she can act as an observer. The guy told her to remember only one thing, that even now his sister Bella is still waiting for them. Then a holographic blue cube appeared in the air, and, calling the guy a psycho, was surprised that someone else was entering the game. Other cubes appeared. Wayne asked Chloe who these idiots were. The girl told the guy that if he wanted to be the first to complete Dantalian, he would need help, as there were too many random settings in the game, and Chloe wouldn't be able to keep track of everything, and these cubes acted as navigators. The young man greeted the spectators and told them to watch him get to the end. Now the guy decided to warm up to test his movements. He was surprised by the quick response. He noted that it was very different from the other game with the 70 synchronization. After warming up a bit, he decided for himself that there wouldn't be any particular problems. The flying cubes were surprised by his speed at learning movement skills in the game, but some noted it was useless, as it would not help in real combat. One of the cubes said that the skeleton tower was the hardest stage among the beginning ones, but Wayne looked at the cubes with a dissatisfied look. Suddenly, before everyone's eyes, a floor tile broke and a bony hand appeared from it. Skeletons appeared from the floor. One of the cubes noted that they were the strongest among the monsters of the first stage. The cursed skeletons began to appear one after another, their bodies engulfed in purple flames, and their eyes glowed with the same bright light. They were able to move due to this evil aura that penetrated the bones of the dead players and revived their skeletons. Chloe's face was covered in worry, and the dice only made the situation worse with their pessimistic remarks. The girl thought that this was a failure, since no one usually won against the damned skeletons alone. The manager shouted at the young man to be careful, because if the enemies hit him, their attack would put a curse effect on the guy. But Wayne asked her not to worry about him. One of the damned skeletons moved straight towards the guy, but the young man dexterously dodged his attack, and noted to himself that everything was simpler than he expected. Now Wayne was ready to strike the enemy. He concentrated the magical power in his fist and swung at the monster. He strikes the cursed skeleton and realizes that there is nothing special about the enemy. His fist was on fire with 99% synchronization. Those watching the broadcast were commenting on the fight. One of the commentators expressed himself in a not very polite manner, and the young man turned to him and said that he remembered his login. He threatened the commentator with reprisals as soon as he won and left the game, while he himself ran away from the army of cursed skeletons that were chasing him. One of them caught up with the guy, his eyes lit up with a purple light, but he immediately receives a powerful blow from Wayne. The guy struck the enemy with all his strength and speed. He defeated every skeleton that stood in his way as he moved forward. Then a system message appeared, which stated that the young man had passed to the second level. The guy immediately wondered how many levels there were in this game. The girl explained that there are 3 levels on the first floor of the Tower of the Dead, to which the guy was surprised that there were so few of them. Meanwhile, viewers continued to send comments with harsh content. But Chloe asked the young man not to relax, because according to some, the second level is considered the most difficult, and then new cursed skeletons appeared. They were different from the cursed skeletons of the first level. These enemies were armed with huge swords and their bones were covered in armor. They were heading straight for Wayne and Chloe. The system added that they were 5 times stronger than first-level enemies. The girl became frightened and began to dissuade the young man from fighting, but the boy said that he did not intend to retreat. And then one of the skeletons leaned forward. He was ready to strike at Wayne, but the guy stood with an unperturbed look as if nothing threatened him at the moment. He reasoned that in previous games the low sync had made it difficult to play, but here it was so high that it made the opponent's movements seem too slow. And now, the damned armored skeletons have already come close to the young man. And only now did he begin to act. Spinning into a somersault, he kicked one of his opponents. A moment later, he had already attacked each of the cursed skeletons and had broken through their army forward. Commenters noted that the hero doesn't exert much effort, but his movements are super fast, and his attacks are effective. Chloe, who had previously doubted Wayne, also noted his outstanding abilities. She did not expect him to fight an armed opponent so perfectly. The young man dealt with all the enemies, and then he noticed the door in front of him. All that was left was to climb up there, and that's it. Wayne confidently moved forward towards the goal, because there was very little left to reach it. He deftly kicks the door open, causing the double doors to hit the walls, and he flies into the new room. It was a room with a boss monster. The guy noted that the first tests were very easy. And then the boss skeleton himself appeared. He looked more terrible than the previous ones. This time his eyes were emitting blue flame. The enemy was gigantic in size. His skull was covered with thick gray hair. The system called him a giant skeleton, a hidden boss. So far, there has not been a single case of passing this monster. Wayne didn't understand what it meant that the boss was hidden, and Chloe also didn't know why this monster appeared in his first game. The young man became wary this time. He crouched slightly, preparing to dodge a sudden attack. The enemy's powerful blow didn't take long to arrive. With just one attack, the monster shattered the tiled floor into tiny pieces. The manager explained that his level was much higher than those monsters, and that one had to remember the map's features when the guy was dodging. The giant cursed skeleton clenched its fist, steaming as it attacked. Wayne himself witnessed its power when he saw the skeleton boss destroy a block wall with one blow. The young man had no intention of giving up. He assumed a fighting stance and said that he was ready to fight properly. And so the giant swung to deliver his powerful, high-speed attack on the hero. The guy sharpened his gaze and was able to quickly dodge even at such a speed of the enemy's strike. But the monster didn't stop at this blow. He launched a series of powerful blows towards Wayne, but the young man dodged each of them. The giant boss's attacks grew more powerful each time, crushing everything in their path. But the guy managed to dodge them, but so far he couldn't attack him in response. Chloe warned the young man about the destruction of the pillars, and the player thanked her in return. He dodged their fall and prepared to finally attack the cursed skeleton boss. The monster prepared to strike back at the hero, gathering all its rage in its fist. The young man dodges the enemy's powerful blow and slides next to his legs, preparing to respond to the monster in kind. The damned skeleton boss became wary. The guy had a special move for such cases, and it is the kick to the legs that he deftly delivers to the giant, causing the skeleton to lose his balance and meet his end. And now the monster, having lost his balance, quickly flies down to the floor, and the guy prepares to take cover from the fall of his heavy bones. But the young man had one more move in store, a crushing blow at great speed. The boy clenched his hand into a fist and prepared to attack. The cube holograms remembered one game where this technique was used. It was the war game King of Fists. And the guy himself was the same one who won for 5 years in a row. He was the strongest of the strongest. A powerful blow was directed from below straight at the enemy's jaw. The skull of the cursed skeleton flies into the air from the general body of the monster. He lands on the floor and bounces back and forth. Wayne picks up the skull and spins it around on his finger with ease. The guy was pleased with his victory. The commentator chat exploded with shock and praise for Wayne, while the guy himself threw the skull on the floor and left. The young man approached the doors with the intention of leaving the hall, leaving the defeated monsters behind him. He simultaneously opened both huge doors of the entrance to the new hall. Wayne entered another room, huge in size. There was no light in the hall. The guy heard footsteps approaching him. A fair-haired man appeared from the darkness, and the young man immediately swung and struck his fist in his direction. But the man in the red suit easily stopped this attack. He smiled at the guy and said that he was waiting for him. An angry Wayne asked the man who he was. The action moved to a game room with 2 capsules and monitors broadcasting the game, where the moment of the King of the Fist's victory was just taking place. 3 men appeared in the room and approached the capsule containing Wayne. They opened the capsule containing the young man to congratulate the new champion of the King of the Fist. The guy was happy to win and was presented with the winner's cup. Despite the fact that it was a game, the young man noted that the hall was very empty, probably because the game had lost popularity. The janitor asked Wayne to step aside as he needed to get ready for the next game. The guy went outside. It was already evening. There was a bustling traffic of cars and crowds of people wandering through the city streets. Standing near the wall of one of the houses, the young man tried to call someone. He was clearly irritated. He called his sister, but her phone didn't answer. The answering machine was working. Wayne suspected that she was playing her game Dantalian. Virtual game Dantalian. Escape from a fantasy labyrinth. Synchronization of connection with the virtual reality body 99%, not a single repeating element. Even after hundreds and thousands of attempts to play the game, gamers all over the world are delighted with Dantalian's advanced technology. And the strangest thing is that over the past 5 years, many users have tried to play this game, but no one has ever completed it. While waiting for his sister's answer, the boy wondered if this game was really that interesting. His memories flashed back to a house completely engulfed in flames. Wayne and his sister lost their parents in the fire when they were little, so they've relied on each other ever since. The young man was worried that he might not be able to make up for their loss, so Bella became very interested in virtual games. But the guy continued to believe that someday his sister would overcome this grief and open her heart to him, because she was a strong person. A message from Bella appeared on his phone, where she happily announced her win, and Wayne thought about buying her favorite dish. The boy moved away from the wall and wandered away, carrying the gifted cup with him. Suddenly, a huge electronic billboard appeared in front of him, loudly announcing some breaking news. The young man stopped in front of it and decided to look to find out its content. The news announced that a fatal system error had occurred in the virtual game Dantalian, which had claimed the lives of many users. A global emergency had been declared, and there were currently approximately 300 million people online. The young man called his friend and asked her to come to Bella, and he himself ran home as fast as he could, throwing aside the cup he had won. A multi-story building appeared in front of him, and he ran into it. Together with Chloe, he quickly entered his sister's room. His sister Bella was lying in the play capsule. Wayne and Chloe stopped in front of the capsule, out of breath from running so fast. The young man's friend approached the screen displaying Bella's physical indicators. They were normal, indicating that her sister was still alive. The young man fell onto the sofa with relief and took off his outerwear. The news reported that governments around the world have blocked downloads of the game Dantalian, with 300 million users currently remaining online. As a result of the search for those associated with the Dantalian game, the company's chairman has been found missing, and the director has been found dead. Chloe showed a live feed of the game on her phone, showing one of the players cornered. The girl said that Dantalian streamers transmit real-world news into the game itself. One of the streamers was in a battle with a monster in the form of a huge snake. One guy told the players not to worry, this is the Messiah who will go through Dantalian and save 300 million people. Wayne watched all these stream clips with tension. He asked Chloe if there was another way to escape, but the girl replied that only if you complete the game. After all, according to one of the game's rules, upon completing all levels, the exit occurs automatically, and Wayne's friend began to suspect that this point in the game was added by the game developers for a reason. It sounded sad that the game's creator hadn't ignored the possibility that something like this could happen, but Chloe said that there were professionals among the stuck users, and you have to wait until they pass all the levels. The best result in Dantalian was the 50th floor. The young man, sighing heavily, decides to go to the game himself. A friend called Wayne crazy because hundreds and thousands of people tried to complete it, and no one could. But the guy told her that that's why he should try to complete it. The young man added that he had won King of Fists 5 times in a row, and that there was no one who knew virtual games better than him. To which the friend countered that Wayne had never played Dantalian, but he replied that it was okay because he had Chloe. Wayne's girlfriend reached the 38th floor in Dantalian. She was a streamer, and quite a smart one at that, and she, just like the young man, loved Bella very much. The girl agreed to the guy's request, but in exchange, she asked him to start broadcasting so that Chloe could help him. The young man agreed and added that he intended to destroy Dantalian. He lay down in a capsule that allowed him to enter the virtual world of the game. The capsule scanned the user's physical data to create an optimal environment. Events returned to the room with the blonde man in the red suit, whom Wayne intended to hit. He introduced himself as the Demon King who was in charge of the first 3 floors of Dantalian, and he mentioned the game's constant volatility. The young man tensed because the stranger stopped his blow quite easily, despite the fact that Wayne put a lot of force into it. The boy prudently jumped aside, and the man told him that Wayne probably had a lot of questions about who he was, and also why people got stuck in the game and so on. The young man looked gloomily at the man in the red suit, waiting for an answer. But he pointed his index finger up and simply replied that all his answers were at the very top. The Demon King added that it was necessary to climb into the labyrinth and do everything one could in the most desperate state, shedding sweat and blood. And it is quite possible that along the way he will find what he is looking for. The young man was not satisfied with this vague answer. He gritted his teeth and rushed towards the man. Wayne called the man in the black suit terrible and, clenching both hands into fists, rushed towards him. The Demon King continued to stand calmly in place, smiling from ear to ear with his shark teeth, his pupils sparkling pink. But Chloe stopped Wayne with her sudden appearance right in front of his face. She asked him to calm down, otherwise the guy would not pass the game. The man repeated the girl's words, snapped his fingers, and 3 huge doors appeared, sparkling in 3 different colors. He explained to the young man that he had passed the first floor of the labyrinth, and these 3 doors lead to the next level. Behind each of them there are different tests. It is unknown which of these tests will be more difficult. The young man didn't understand the Demon King's words. Chloe said that even in the basic Dantalian system there was no explanation. But the girl decided to try to explain the essence of the game to the guy in simple language. And in short, in this game there are 72 floors of the labyrinth, if the guy completes the game when he gets to the very top. After completing each level, he can choose one of 3 doors. The blue door signifies a boost. You can advance to the next level if your stats are slightly higher. The boost effect is limited to the next stage. The green color of this door signifies restoration. Here you can heal all the wounds received on the previous floors and proceed to the next one. And lastly, the door is yellow, golden blessing. If you go to the next floor after this color, you can get gold coins as a reward. Gold is the labyrinth's currency, which can be used at transit points. To do this, you simply need to give gold to a merchant and purchase an equipment card. Chloe also added that there is a reason why players don't choose the golden door. If players lose on the next floor, no amount of gold coins will help them anymore. It is better to choose strengthening or healing than an unknown future. The man waited until the girl's monologue ended and reminded her that Wayne needed to make a choice between strengthening, restoration, and gold. The manager explained to the guy that as soon as he opened the door, the next battle would begin. The guy stepped forward decisively. He chose the golden door, figuring that the strengthening and restoration would not stay with him, but the gold would. He entered the magical gold sparkling door, and a new dark hall appeared. Behind him, a holographic screen appeared on the golden door with a system message about the player's achievements for completing the previous level. The girl noted that he had 3 achievements, which was a good sign, but the guy didn't quite understand it. Chloe explained that Dantalian doesn't have a stat system. Achievements are what matter. The more achievements you have, the greater your character's physical abilities. And while there is no noticeable difference between the first or third achievement, when 20 or 30 of them accumulate, the difference can already be considered as the difference between a child and an adult. The girl asked the young man if anything had changed, to which he replied that his body had become a little lighter. Suddenly, a monster with huge eyes like red spheres appeared from the darkness of the hall. He was holding dice with different numbers of sides in his claws. Wayne asked the manager who the dark guy was, and Chloe explained that he was a non-player character randomly generated by the game. This unknown character threw his bones and opened his paw. The discarded edges glowed blue, depicting a labyrinth and a key. The system displayed a message that the guy had entered the stage. The commentator warned to turn down the volume on the speakers, and at the same moment a loud roar of the creatures was heard. Wayne and Chloe found themselves in a corridor, on both sides of which were cages with monsters emitting terrifying loud screams. They were breaking out of their cells, trying to get to freedom. The young man covered his ears with his hands so as not to go deaf. Suddenly, 3 monster guards appeared in the corridor, ordered the monsters to remain silent, and pointed a trident at the hero, calling him an escaped prisoner. The system displayed a timer on the hologram screen, with a half-hour allotted time for completing the stage, and the monster itself ordered its comrades to grab the guy. The manager ordered the guy to run away for now. He obeyed and rushed forward along the corridor, and the monsters from the cages ordered him to free them. Chloe briefly explained that to win, one prisoner must be freed so that while he fights the guards, The young man will find the keys and the entrance to the labyrinth. But Wayne's friend didn't know which of the prisoners would agree to help them, but then her gaze stopped on one girl, shackled in a cell. The manager ordered the guy to collect all the keys from the floor and free the prisoner on the right. The young man stopped at the right cell and crouched down on the floor to collect the keys from it. He noted that there were too many keys on the floor, while Chloe urged him on. The guards discovered them and rushed towards the guy and his girlfriend. One of the monster guards raised his trident and intended to kill Wayne. At that moment, the guy dealt with the lock on the cell and freed the prisoner. She shielded the young man and his manager, stopping the monster's attack. The prisoner knocked the trident out of the monster's clutches and pierced the guard with it. There are two types of NPCs in Dantalian. Non-player characters were the most important element of this game. They, like the players, participate in the game, and with their help you can reach the top floor of the labyrinth. The prisoner dealt with all the guards. She took the keys from the enemies and removed the shackles from their hands. Despite the fact that she was wearing tattered clothes, she was a beautiful girl with long white hair. The young man doubted that she would help him, but Chloe asked him to believe her, and the stranger immediately bowed before the guy. She told Wayne that she was a member of the Knightly Order and was the leader of the Central Order, and that her name was Emma. Then the guy noticed the shadow of a little girl approaching behind her. The girl thanked the young man for saving her and her sister Abigail. Emma offered her help in exchange for being able to take her sister with her. The young man said that he didn't care. The main thing was that she helped, and Abigail showed a short route to meet the deadline. The guy doubted Chloe's choice of allies, but nevertheless, there were new guards on their way, and the guy deflected their attacks. He put his trust in the little girl's plan, who was meanwhile figuring out how to find a route. Abigail opened the door and led everyone behind her. There were only 11 minutes left, and the entrance had not appeared. Wayne ran forward with his allies, who showed him the way. Around the corner was a new group of monster guards. The guy was about to run away from them, but Emma said that she would deal with them and took out her sword. She stepped forward straight towards the monster guards and swung her sword to strike. She raised her sword into the air and activated her skills. The space around her lit up with a pink glow. She instantly struck all the guards who were blocking their path. Behind her lay the bloody, unconscious bodies of the monsters, and she ordered her accomplices to move forward. Wayne commented on her cool move, and Chloe added that she had skills, along with skill cards. There was a single technique supported in Dantalian. If movements could be reproduced with a high level of skill in virtual reality, this could be materialized into skills. At that moment, Abigail showed Wayne and Chloe the exit, but he was behind bars. The door was closed, and the girl said that 3 keys were needed and asked the others to wait. The boy looked back as Abigail tried to figure out the lock. There was a sound in the corridor, and at that moment a giant guard appeared in front of them. He shouted loudly to surrender and threatened that if they did not obey, they would be killed. Emma was tired of fighting, and Abigail was still trying to open the ill-fated door. The monster added that if they fell into his hands, he would treat them as he had done last time. To which the girls remembered something unpleasant and became tense because of it. Wayne called the little girl and told her to calm down and imagine that she was in the bedroom of her house. And he added that he would take on this monster. Abigail calmed down and continued trying to open the lock. Meanwhile, the system indicated that there were less than 2 minutes left to complete the game, and the young man stood in front of the enemy. Suddenly, a bright light flashed in front of the monster's head. These were the hero's quick attacks. The guard wrapped himself around the guy to strike. The young man continued to dodge his attacks. The monster noted that the girl moved completely differently during the fight. The guy asked Chloe if he could replicate Emma's cool moves, but she said no. But the young man smiled and decided to do what he had already done many times in another game. He focused his movements on every step and performed a king fist technique. Wayne concentrated all his energy into his fist and was able to activate the skills. The young man launched a blow at the monster, which was accompanied by a huge whirlwind of golden light. The blow was like a storm and swept away everything in its path. This attack pierced a hole in the guard. The young man looked around and realized that he had succeeded. Chloe was surprised at how easily the guy managed to activate the skills, and the monster lay next to the guy on the floor, defeated by Wayne. Meanwhile, Abigail was able to open the door lock. The guy quickly praised the girl and ordered everyone to run, as the newly arrived monster guards were already chasing them. The exit door was in front of them, but the system indicated that there were only 3 seconds left before the end of the game time. At the very last second, Wayne burst through the door with his comrades. A digital board with achievements for the completed round appeared on the door in front of the guy. The young man breathed a sigh of relief as they were close to defeat, and Chloe praised him for earning 3 more achievements. Wayne looked at the 2 sisters who were helping him through the test. Emma bowed before the boy and thanked him for saving them, and the young man responded by saying his name. The girl thanked Wayne once again and gave her word as a knight to sacrifice her life for him. Chloe added that they could help the guy climb up the floors, but he thought about it. Abigail took Wayne's finger in her small hand and thanked him. For a moment, the boy saw his little sister in her. Memories from the past appeared before his eyes. The guy decided that she shouldn't follow him. He thought that this would not bring anything good and let go of her hand. Wayne responded with deliberate coldness that the girls would only get in the way and asked them to go their own way. The sisters turned and walked away towards the shining door. Chloe said that they could help the guy, but he briefly replied that he could handle it himself and needed to hurry. He chooses the golden doors again and enters a new hall. This time the aura of the room was different, and it surprised him. A female voice was heard from ahead, reproaching the guy for standing at the door for too long. The system brought up the name of this boss, the bored Queen Annie, who was fed up with everything, showed up herself. In appearance she was very beautiful and resembled a succubus. Next to her was a red dog. The essence of the task was to satisfy the queen's whims. Chloe told the guy that she had already completed this level with her, the essence of which was simply to satisfy the queen's whims. There were other players in the room who tried to please Annie with tricks, tasty treats, or expensive gifts. But the queen didn't like anything that was proposed. She ordered the annoying players to kill each other. The young man decided not to waste time on this, and clenched his fist with the intention of fighting Annie. But the manager warned that the queen was not made to fight with her. She was too strong, because it was already the 3rd floor. Wayne became wary. He felt the vibes of fear that she was giving off, and that this floor was different from the previous ones. He thought that there might be something hidden here. Annie reminded the guy of her presence. She beckoned the guy towards her, beckoning him with her index finger. An idea came to the young man's mind that he could try. He asked Chloe to trust him and headed towards the queen. The manager didn't understand the guy's intentions, but she watched as he approached Annie's bed. The young man resolutely sat down on the queen's bed and approached her. Annie said the guy was cute and licked her lips. Chloe blushed at what she saw. This was clearly not the plan she expected from Wayne. The young man came even closer to the queen, who bared the boy and had no intention of resisting his actions. Annie moved closer to the guy's face, and Chloe shouted requests for the guy to stop his intentions. But Wayne didn't listen to her. He moved closer to the queen's face, touching her nose a couple of centimeters from her lips. Suddenly the boy's actions changed. He grabbed the queen by the neck and squeezed her tightly in a grip. He exclaimed to the real enemy that if he moved, the succubus would die. The dog, who was previously small in size, suddenly turned into a giant. He was a real boss. Chloe was surprised at how the guy was able to figure out the real enemy, and Wayne explained that he felt tremendous power, but not from the succubus, but from her dog. The guy also showed a tag he found along the way with the nickname Barney. One of the holographic cubes told Chloe that she was jealous, but the girl hit him in response. Meanwhile, Wayne tightened his grip on the succubus's neck. He threatened the real boss that if he fought the guy, he would rip the queen's head off. The giant dog swung its fist into the air. A whirlwind of air and debris from the broken interior formed in the room. The young man waited for his boss's decision, and he looked at the guy carefully. The hostage addressed the huge dog as its owner. She growled back, the rage never leaving her eyes. The young man waited to see if this method would work, and another wave of air rose in the room. And then the dog began to shrink before our eyes to its previous size. The boss asked not to touch Barney. The young man asked if she would be pleased if he released the succubus, to which the dog responded positively. The boss added that if the guy let the queen go and left her alive, she would be happy and cried at the end. The system displayed a message about completing the level, and the guy left the room, and Annie and Barney remained hugging in the same room. Meanwhile, Wayne asked Chloe what she was offended about, and she answered evasively. The guy heard someone's laughter behind him. It was the same man in the red suit that the boy had seen earlier. He was impressed that the guy managed to satisfy Annie. The young man looked at the Demon King warily. The man snapped his finger, and a holographic screen immediately appeared with achievements for the completed level. The Devon King announced to Wayne that he had completed all 3 floors that the man in red had prepared for him. He also warned that the very floor where the next tests would take place was waiting for him ahead. The guy noted that this time there was only 1 door. The Demon King explained that there was only 1 door on every 3rd floor, so there was no need to think about it. A restroom was waiting for the young man ahead. He added that there you will be able to meet other players, as well as non-player characters who helped the guy earlier. Wayne asked Chloe if it was possible that he would meet his sister here, but the girl replied that Bella had already logged into the game a long time ago and was most likely at a higher level. The boy mentally asked his sister to wait a little longer, clarifying that he was finishing the game faster than anyone else. He walked resolutely towards the doors leading to another hall. He paused for a moment in front of the entrance that separated him from the restroom. An evaluation sheet compiled by the Demon King in charge of the floors appeared on the doors. Chloe said that there are different levels, depending on which the player receives a certain amount of gold. The sheet contained words of praise, resulting in Wayne being awarded a high rank and 100 gold coins. The guy asked what this rank meant, and Chloe was surprised at how high the rank turned out to be. The new location resembled a fantasy town. One of the players ran out into the street and told the others that there was some strange player who was pulling out cards. Wayne poured gold coins onto the table and asked to give him one of the cards. The girl standing behind the bar was horrified by the amount of gold coins. The players present in the establishment did not believe that the guy was actually buying cards. Then the owner of the store came down the stairs and ordered the guest to be given to him. Lenny was an NPC who said she received 100 gold coins from Wayne. She recognized the young man's abilities and turned around on the bar shelf. The hostess lifted one of the bottles, causing a crash. The shelf with liquor turned into a cabinet with maps. The girl took a stack of cards and began shuffling them. Lenny laid out 3 cards in front of the guy and asked him to turn them over. Wayne noticed that a huge crowd of people had surrounded him behind his back. He asked the hostess to look at the cards alone, to which the woman replied that this was impossible. Chloe also became wary, noting the danger of the situation. After all, if a person sees an interesting thing, he wants to possess it. Demons show players a valuable reward to evoke a feeling of greed. By this, they want to make players desperately fight for the reward. Despite his dissatisfaction, the young man revealed all 3 cards lying in front of him on the table. All the cards turned out to be rare, and the crowd watched Wayne's actions with caution. Chloe explained that rare items only have a 5% chance of dropping, and only on the 3rd floor. She added that normal rank cards have 1 type of experience indicator, and skills and equipment are at the normal level. An unusual card already has 2 experience indicators, equipment and skills of an unusual level. And a rare card, here there are already 3 experience indicators, a rare level of equipment and skills. The holographic cubes were deciding among themselves which item was better, to which the guy asked them to remain silent so he could make his own choice. Wayne reflected on one of the commentators' comments about choosing the monk's belt to achieve divine synergy. The young man decided on the monk's belt, as he believed that the more synergy of one type, the greater the effect of strength and damage. The shop owner once again clarified his choice in favor of the monk's belt, to which Wayne responded with an affirmative consent. He took the chosen card from the table. The system displayed a new message offering to use the monk's belt, and the young man confirmed the action. The space around him began to shine with a bright blue light throughout the entire tavern, and the belt was instantly on the guy. A system window immediately popped up in the air, showing an increase in indicators. But meanwhile, behind the guy's back, a gloomy atmosphere reigned from those present, clearly envious of the item the guy had acquired. The boy noticed their tense gaze, but Chloe reassured him that fighting was prohibited in the recreation area. Wayne headed to his bedroom for the night, anticipating trouble tomorrow. Chloe told the guy that Bella wasn't there, but the young man replied that he needed to sleep because he felt tired. The girl suggested turning off the broadcast and getting some sleep. The young man turned off the broadcast and lay down on the bed. He was bothered by the fact that even while playing the game, he needed to sleep. Closing his eyes, the boy had a nightmare about a past incident with a fire in his house. Wayne stood with his sister as his father went into the flames to rescue people left in the burning house. Little Wayne didn't want to let go of his father, but his father stroked his head and asked him to take care of Bella. He then leaves his son and runs towards the burning house. Wayne shouts after him, and then the dream ends. The young man jumps up from his bed, amazed by the realism of the nightmare he saw. A system notification about entering the manager chat popped up. The guy leaves the hotel. Chloe asks how he is feeling, to which the guy replied that he feels fine. The young man went down to the pub hall where quite a few people had already gathered. They immediately surrounded Wayne and began asking him various questions about obtaining gold coins and asking him to join them. The young man was perplexed, and the manager explained that in the recreation area, you can hire non-player characters to go through levels together, and the better the skills, the higher the competition. But the guy told the crowd that he didn't need anything and asked them to leave him alone. The young man explained to the girl that he intended to go alone, as he did not trust anyone. He walked to the door that separated the sitting area from the new level. People moved towards the door, wanting to go through it together. The system announced that entry to the 4th floor had been completed, and the location changed from a small town to a mysterious forest. There were many other players present with Wayne. Suddenly, someone's footsteps were heard from the forest, and people turned around to hear the sound. It was Adriana. She was the Demon King in charge of the 4th, 5th, and 6th floors. People around watched her appearance warily. The girl was wearing a long dress with a slit on the side. She had long black hair. She immediately announced a task in this forest, the essence of which was to find 3 beads. After every 3 floors there is a rest area, a place where you can change equipment and rest before entering the next Demon King's stage. Players who have been separated can meet again in the rest area, where they can purchase cards and change equipment from the merchant NPC. All participants in the 4th floor mission were tense before the current mission. The Demon King of this floor, Adriana, arrogantly dismissed the players as not very attractive people. But that's even more interesting. She said that the task in the forest is simple. You need to collect 3 beads. This information was duplicated on the system screen. The players were confused. They did not understand the essence of the task. One of the players stepped forward and yelled at Adriana, demanding that she explain the mission properly. But at that very moment, a giant snake appeared. She pounced on the boy and began to eat him. The snake-like monster completely swallowed the emboldened player. Adriana continued to sit calmly and asked those present if there were any other dissatisfied people. All the players shook with fear and did not answer the girl, who told them to hurry up and start the task. She briefly repeated the terms of the mission, which stated that he needed to bring her 3 beads, and then she would allow him to proceed to the next stage. And at the end, she added with a smile that the more beads they find, the better. The people around began to disperse, quietly arguing with each other, while Wayne stood in place and thought. He didn't know what to do either, but then Chloe flew up and told him to trust her and follow her. The young man ran as fast as he could into the depths of the forest, and the girl explained the essence of the test to him as she went. None of the players knew anything about the game except the NPCs, but Wayne had information from other players who had played the games hundreds and thousands of times. They shared their knowledge and experience about the levels, thanks to which Wayne had an idea of how to complete them. He was in a better position than the other players. Chloe was directing his route. The goal of this floor was to collect beads hidden in the forest and bring them to Adriana, who was in the middle of the clearing. These beads could have been found in the possession of forest-dwelling creatures, hanging from trees, or buried deep in the ground. The stronger the beast or the taller the tree, the greater the chance that they have the beads. The most important thing is to act quickly, because the number of beads was limited. Towards the end, some NPCs no longer tried to look for them. They simply killed each other to take them away. Therefore, it was necessary to quickly complete this level before the massacre began. Wayne and Chloe ran to the largest tree in the forest. One commenter reported that there was a snake cave near the roots, and other users asked to kill the snake. Chloe said that we need to find the snake tracks. That's where the entrance to the cave will be. While the girl was about to look for the cave, the guy examined the ground under his feet and came up with an idea. He raised his leg above the ground to kick. The manager did not understand the meaning of his actions. Wayne hit the ground with all his might. The sound of crashing stones was immediately heard. The ground split open, creating a chasm into which Wayne and Chloe fell. During the flight, the girl asked the guy where he got such skills. He explained that he simply did what he tried in the last game, and it worked. A few moments later, they appeared to be at the bottom of a giant snake monster cave. There was nothing living inside the cave, but only one snake lived in this cave. The girl thought that the larger the place and the stronger the beast, the greater the chance of finding beads in the cave of the boss monster of this level, the huge snake Arnold. Chloe explained to the guy that Arnold is not active during the day, so this is his chance. Suddenly, a sharp, loud noise was heard in the cave. Other players appeared on the ruins of the collapsed ceiling and noticed that the guy had discovered this place too quickly. Chloe recognized them from the break room, where they had been watching Wayne. The guy noted the strangeness of these people. They looked like zombies. Chloe suggested that it might be mind control magic. But one of the players, apparently their leader, objected that it was natural that people listen to those who are stronger. But he had a sword that was covered in pink flames in the form of a tentacle that controlled people. The girl was surprised that the hero had such a powerful artifact at only level 4 and suspected him of fraud. The man with the sword raised it towards Wayne. He ordered the young man to give him his rare card, then he would not kill the guy. But Wayne smiled and gave him the middle finger, saying that he would not give up the card. An artifact item is an item that has no synergy, but has a special function. Sometimes high-level artifacts can be more important than cards, and a high-level equipment card can contain synergy and be an artifact at the same time. The man became angry and ordered his subordinates to kill Wayne, and they rushed towards the guy. They began to swing their weapons at the young man, trying to injure him. Wayne thought he could beat them. He had no reason to lose. He had collected 3 achievements on each floor, which meant he was ahead of them in growth. He clenched his fist and punched one of his opponents. The guy fought back against anyone who dared to approach him, and their leader stood and watched the battle. The man noted that the guy was strong, and not just lucky, who easily got the cards. He turned to Wayne and told him that he was stronger than he thought. Chloe noted that his weapon was too strong and did not match the hero's level. The villain asked the young man if he wanted to receive this sword and raised the weapon into the sky. The girl warned the boy to be careful, because the young man did not yet have a magic shield, so just one blow would be enough. The man launched a shockwave at Wayne, who managed to jump aside. He dodged the attacks caused by the sword's shockwaves quite quickly. The enemy fires another sword beam, but his men were standing ahead. The man hits one of his subordinates in the head. The beam's power instantly envelops the player's body, and they gain new powers as they direct it at Wayne. The guy saw the approaching danger and prepared to dodge. At this moment, a powerful blow from the enchanted player falls. Wayne assesses his surroundings from a distance and notices something strange. An earthquake begins. The slabs under the player's feet crack, and there is noise and rumble everywhere. Chloe flies up to the guy and says that they need to get out of the cave as soon as possible. The young man jumps up the mountain formed by the falling roof, with the goal of reaching the top and getting out of the cave. He performs this maneuver quite quickly, leaving the enemy's men behind. A man is injured by one of the falling roof fragments. The hand is injured and releases the magic sword artifact. The enemy immediately feels a loss of strength and tenses up. Wayne turned around at the scream he heard behind him. The man asked the guy for help because he could barely hold his body on the edge of the cliff. The enemy repeats the request in order to get help from the guy. After thinking for a bit, Wayne finally decides to help the player and extends his hand to him. The man's face changes from pitiful to insidious. But then his gaze is drawn to the magic sword that was on the edge of the cliff. The sword falls into the abyss, flying in front of the enemy's face. The player lets go of the cliff edge and flies after the sword, hoping to catch it. Wayne watches the flying figure of a man and a magic sword disappearing into the darkness of the abyss. Suddenly, a huge open mouth of a snake monster appears in the abyss. After a brief moment, it slams shut, swallowing the man and his powerful sword. A snake flies out of a cave above Wayne, who recognizes the monster as the floor boss, Arnold. The girl flies up to the young man and asks about his condition. He replies that although he is in the game, the sensations are disgusting. Chloe didn't understand him and asked him again, but the guy said it was okay and offered to go. Arnold bites and kills those who challenge him, and places their corpses in his cave, and among these corpses are beads. The young man and the manager went deeper into the cave to look for the beads, and inside they discovered many animal corpses. The guy opened the beak of one of the victims and saw the light of the bead. The system displayed messages about the activation of the effect of the amplification bead. Wayne collected several of them and sat down on top of a mountain of creature bodies. He remembered Adriana's words that each bead gives one achievement. 3 beads mean completing the task, but the more the better. The young man concluded that the more beads he brought her, the stronger he would become. He considers going deeper into Arnold's lair. Wayne realizes that what he needs most now is something that can counter the magical attack that player had. He reaches the depths of the cave and notices what he was looking for, a magic shield. He grabs a shield covered in golden scales floating in the air and throws it over his shoulders. System messages about Arnold's scales being obtained and equipped pop up. Another system message about the activation of magical protection also appears. Meanwhile, the snake monster attacked the other players in the forest and destroyed them all. But then he suddenly opens his huge mouth. Something happens to his body, causing the monster to fall unconscious. Arnold's soul demands stronger flesh. In search of the right solution, a thought comes to the snake. He decides to kill Wayne. Now the snake's mind controlled the magic tentacle sword. At this moment, predatory man-eating rabbits gathered over the bodies of the dead. But as soon as Wayne's appeared, they ran away from the bodies of the victims. Chloe asked how the young man was feeling, but he dryly replied that he didn't understand yet. The boy wanted to test the power he gained from the beads. Not far from his location, Wayne heard a group of people walking, talking about something of their own. The young man crept up to this group of players and hid behind a rock. Suddenly, the shadow of a bird appeared in the air above them. An unknown entity grabbed a girl from this group. It was a monster beak. It let out a loud, piercing cry. The rest of the people panicked when they saw this monster. Chloe explained that this monster beak usually attacks noisy prey first. It likes to hunt magical creatures, because the stronger the creature, the more magical energy is in its corpse. The guys from the group asked the girl how she was, but she started asking them for help. Suddenly, the bird-like monster spread its enormous wings, the outer feathers changing color to bright red. The monster flapped its wings, directing an attack of feathers towards the people. The strikes of the feathers hit one of the group of players. He fell to the ground dead. The surviving players immediately became afraid of death and rushed away from the enemy. Wayne stretched his arms, preparing to rescue his abandoned comrade. He crouched low to the ground, preparing to make a powerful leap. And then the guy flies up into the sky, leaving behind a bright beam of light. The young man soared above the monster, causing the bird to become agitated. Wayne clenches his hand into a fist, preparing for a powerful attack. He delivers a powerful blow to the monster, slamming it into the ground. The bird burst into a scream of pain. At the same moment, the bird releases its prey from its clutches. This blow was not enough for victory, and the monster begins to attack the guy with its feather blades. The young man crosses his arms in front of his face to protect himself from attack. The bird continues to release a rain of sharp feathers from its huge wings, accompanying its attack with a piercing cry. Here Wayne comes up with a plan to fight the monster. He intends to attack this creature at its weak point. The guy folds his hands, connecting 2 index fingers forward. The young man jumps up from the ground, keeping his fingers folded together, and in one moment makes his interesting attack on the monster. Wayne informed that his hands were reinforced with beads and would bring great relief. At that moment, the monster falls silent and tenses. The bird goes into severe shock. She jumps up from her place and flies away along with the guy stuck in her. The rescued girl remains on the ground and takes shelter from the windstorm raised by the monster. Chloe calls after Wayne, and the victim is puzzled by what is happening. She remains sitting on the ground, never having time to thank her savior. Meanwhile, there were people left at the destination. One of the guys said that he didn't like it. He scolded his people who had returned from the expedition for not bringing back a single bead. It seems he was their leader. One of the players justified himself by saying that Arnold was not so easy to kill because of his creepiness, and that the returning players were those who did not want to die. The boy pointed at the witch and added that even she was unlikely to be safe. The boss starts to worry but remains silent for now. He reasoned that many who tried to fight the snake monster were afraid of its power, and turned back to attack the one who could get the beads just like the guy himself. But the player began to doubt his plan, because he was not sure that anyone would be able to fight back against these creatures swarming in the forest. The guy understood one thing. Whoever came here with beads, a bloody mess was inevitable. The young man continued to look at the sky and wait for further developments. Meanwhile, Adriana noticed that her snake was hungry. Wayne finds himself in the nest of the creature that took him away. But there were also some positives. The guy found 5 more beads and collected all the achievements. The young man was even glad because he also got some monster beak feathers. The monster itself now resembled a plucked chicken. Wayne wondered if this bird was laying eggs. The guy leaves the enemy's nest and jumps to the ground, but something immediately alarms him. He notices that the forest has become too quiet. There are no animals, no birds, not even bugs. They have all disappeared for a long time now. But then the young man hears a strange hum and realizes that something is approaching. The guy hid behind a rock, and then a large animal's clawed paw appeared from the forest. This is a tiger monster. He was the second most powerful monster in the forest. He catches up with his victim with lightning speed and tears him to shreds. But the young man became wary. He understood that the energy clearly did not come from him. It was too powerful for this tiger. And he turns out to be right. Something immediately grabs the tiger. A giant snake monster, Arnold, appears from the shadows. Without delay, he swallows the caught prey. Chloe notes his terrifying strength as the monster swallowed a whole tiger in one moment. Arnold was not initially that powerful. But this was not enough for the snake. He smelled human flesh. Wayne was hiding behind a rock nearby, afraid to make a sound. Arnold spots the guy and unleashes a crushing blow on him, but the young man jumps aside in time. He notices something strange about the monster, because initially the snake moved differently than it does now. Keeping his composure, the boy runs away from Arnold's attacks. Having guessed the right moment, the young man delivers a powerful kick to the snake's body. But Wayne immediately realizes that his blow was absolutely useless against such a creature. The giant's tail hits the guy and he is thrown straight into the trunk of a nearby tree. The young man, crossing his arms, catches his breath, and the thought occurs to him that the monster is no longer moving like a snake but like a man. The snake laughed wildly. Arnold spoke like a man who had been looking for Wayne everywhere. Chloe also notices that Arnold does not have enough consciousness to speak. Finally, the snake approaches Wayne and decides to reveal his identity to the guy. Listening to the monster's voice, the young man begins to guess. He finally recognizes the monster as the man who attacked him with his subordinate players back in the snake's cave. The monster doesn't give the guy time to think and declares that he intends to eat him. The young man again dodges the attack of the enemy creature. He also realized that the sword artifact had taken over the consciousness of the snake Arnold. As he moves, Wayne begins to think of a plan to defeat the powerful and gigantic enemy. And the snake continues to catch up with the young man, making fun of him along the way. Now the monster uses a new technique. It shoots pink poison from its mouth directly at the hero. Wayne tries to escape from sudden danger, but the acid flew very fast. And whatever she hit, those things immediately melted. The girl screamed on the other side of the playing area. The acid hits Wayne's back. The snake laughs in anticipation of the boy's bones dissolving. But the shield saves the young man from death. Arnold didn't stop there. He grabbed the boy with his tail, squeezing him tightly. He lifted the player into the air. At once it begins to squeeze its tail on the guy's body, strangling him. The snake brings Wayne to its mouth and asks the young man how many victims he has eaten so far. And then he himself gave the answer that he had eaten 20 people, and with each one he ate, he became stronger. Arnold also wondered what the guy's brain tasted like. Then suddenly his mouth opened like a flower, revealing its many sharp teeth. The monster pointed its slippery, spiked tongue at the boy. The young man does not despair and takes a blade out of his sleeve. In an instant he cuts off the snake's tongue. The poison hits the guy. The monster burst into a wild cry of pain. Wayne breaks free from the snake's tail grip. The young man jumped onto the monster's face and explained that thanks to the protection of Arnold's scales, the poison had no effect on the boy, but he had pretended to be wounded. The guy had a plan, the essence of which was to get closer to the monster and deliver a crushing blow. He swings his hand, which held the dagger, and strikes the snake's eye. With his attack, the guy deals damage directly to the monster's pupil. The snake begins to let out a wild scream, and the young man jumps back from the entity's face. Suddenly, the guy thinks of an idea to perform his special move. The monster doesn't look defeated yet, so Wayne decides to perform this maneuver. He jumps up and, concentrating his energy in his legs, prepares to attack the monster. The guy comes back from the sky and kicks him right into the dagger stuck in his eye. A powerful beam of energy emanates from the eye. The monster is torn into many pieces. As a result, all that remains of the giant snake is a sword artifact. At the last moment of its existence, the sword asks Wayne to wait and not to take decisive action because the enemy can still make the guy stronger. But the young man sends a sword. He decisively breaks it into small pieces with his foot. Turning around, the guy notices something behind him. It was the torn body of a monster behind him. The young man joked that this creature could not be eaten because it was poisoned. To which Chloe replies that Wayne is hungry and needs to eat. The young man dines on fried eggs of some creature. Meanwhile, Adriana notices something in the forest, and she immediately realizes that Wayne has defeated the main boss alone. From the forest came the piercing sounds of battle, terrifying the players gathered in a group. The guys started discussing that someone was able to defeat that snake. The people decided that if they went there, they might get at least one bead, since the guy had already defeated the monster. A few guys stayed behind to wait and didn't follow the other group. Then a burning figure appeared from the darkness of the forest. One player immediately realized that it was the one who had collected all the beads who was returning. Covered in blood, Wayne emerged from the forest towards the players. The guy pulled out his sword, getting ready to fight him, but another player immediately beat him to it, saying that he didn't care who he defeated. And he announced his intention to kill Wayne and take all the beads for himself. Tension hung in the air as armed players crowded around the boy, preparing to fight him and take the beads for themselves. Wayne pulled out one bead, showing it to everyone present. He teased them, asking if this was what they needed. The players were delighted that it really was a bead, but Wayne grabbed it in his hands and swung it hard, joyfully challenging the players to catch it. He throws the bead towards the boys with all his strength. The bead is imprinted into the face of one of the enemies. The player behind is horrified by the power of this attack. He, having lost his teeth, falls unconscious to the ground. The bead flies up, and another player is already getting ready to catch it. But Wayne prevents his evil plan from coming to fruition and kicks him in the spine, thus preventing the villain from getting his bead. The remaining players decide to attack the young man together. They group up and run towards the guy, pointing their blades at him. But Wayne notices them and spins in the air, attacking his enemies without the slightest effort. He lands powerful blows on the players one after another, breaking a head, and the commentators on air note that those guys didn't have a chance. On average, NPCs have 4 achievements across 4 floors. But Wayne has a total of 27 beads and achievements. Their difference in strength, like that of an adult and a child, the young man defeated all of the group of players who attacked him.